All right.
I'm good at that.
All right. CPI Interview 4.
And in this interview, we're going to talk about Louis playing the guitar.
That'll be edited out, by the way.
Oh, come on, man. I'm just trying to help you.
All right. Sitting here with Sam Mattise. Not to be confused with Mattise.
Correct. Which is my wife's name.
I got it. Wow, where do I start with you? All right. First question: how long you been involved with CPI?
Probably since 83. 19. That'd be 1983, not 1883.
I'll keep the old jokes to myself.
Oh, okay.
I'll be nice. Do you belong to any other?
I belong to the Cowboy Poets of the Palouse up in northern Idaho. I belong to the Western Music Association, and I also belong to the Academy of Western Artists.
Okay. This is reaching back a ways. How'd you get involved? How'd you get started, or what get your interest up in performing? And
well, I've been performing for 37 years thereabouts. When I came back from Nam, I was living in LA, and I started there, and then I moved to Texas, and then on to Tennessee, and from there I moved to Oklahoma. But before, when I moved to Oklahoma, I had a group. I was in with a small band called Country Gentlemen, but I also performed as a single, in various clubs, bars. So basically, a long time with a lot of good friends and a lot of great musicians.
okay, you mentioned you didn't start until after you came back from Nam and stuff. So you were
All right.
18, 19.
No, I was 20,
Or-
20, 21, 20,
Okay.
thereabouts, 21 or 22. And I really didn't even pick up a guitar until I was in Nam. And I picked up a guitar there because I've always liked to sing. I started out as a drummer and ended up doing what I do.
Well, that's lucky us.
Yeah.
Okay. What influenced you, or who influenced you?
And who influenced me? Basically, the guy that I always wanted to see while I was still in Nam was Thelonious Monk, and he passed away before I got home. But basically, a lot of blues singers influenced me as I grew up, and that's, when you listen to me, that's a lot of what I sing, and how I sing it has blues overtones, and that's just the way it is. The old artists like Jimmy Rogers, who was quote unquote the father of everything. If you look at his music and his songs, take out the yodeling, because he was, of course, the yodeling breakman. If you take out the yodeling, all they are blues songs, and I do not a lot, but a number of his songs, but I sing them as blues, and he's told me that it was all right for me to do it that way.
Right. Accolades. I see your name almost everywhere I go when I look up cowboy poetry. And it's probably part of it being associated with the genre, the the cowboy poets and musics for so long.
Well, I appreciate that. I do. But
So I mean, what would be? Let me try to phrase this because I haven't been able to ask this to anybody yet. Your personal achievements, best achievements that you've done so far.
so far, I mean, the CD that I put out last December called "If Old Saddles Could Talk," that it's a CD of poetry, and I only perform my poetry that I write. But it was that's one of the things where there are so many great poets out there that are in our genre that perform, and that's what they do. But most of the people that know me know that I make my living with a guitar. And for them to acknowledge the fact that I put this CD out, and for them to acknowledge that it's good work, and they have put me in the realm of those other poets, I think, you know, that's one of the greatest, the highest points, at least at this point in time, of what I've done. I mean, I have a band in Boise that's in its 18th year, and it's a whole different, we play in a whole different realm because it's strictly it's called a Roadhouse Blues Band, basically. And anyway, but in this genre, that aspect of, I've written 2 books that are published, but the CD is the biggest, I think, because it's been acknowledged, and I find it very humbling that they would.
Because you kind of stepped outside of your norm.
Right, I did. I have stepped outside of that norm. The norm of standing up there, because and any poet will tell you, and maybe not, but when you're on stage and you're playing with a guitar, you can hide behind the music. You could screw up 17 times, and I can tell you lots of stories about that. But you have music to hide behind. When you get up there and you stand in front of an audience and you're doing these poets that do, you're exposing a piece of your inner self to the audience, to the criticism that they may give you. Because every poem that you recite is a little piece of you, and you can't hide behind anything. It's just you, the microphone, and the audience. And, you know, the poets that do it day in, day out, they get up there, and they're, like I said, even in our organization, Cowboy Poets of Idaho, many fine poets, like Ellie Corrigan, Lale Bagley, Vern Woodbury. There's so many great poets, and that's what they do. And if they screw up, you can't hardly tell. And if I screw up with music, the only one that knows is the other musicians, because they know I screwed up, but the audience has no idea because you can hide.
So would you say you're pretty hard on yourself if you mess something up, or can you let it slide?
I used to be, I think. I used to be pretty hard, but I'm not anymore. Don't let that kind of stuff bother me. I tell everybody, well, until they start paying me $1,000 for each performance, I'm not going to worry about it. You know, that's not really going to happen, but.
But it happens, right? How many CDs total do you have?
I just in this genre, I only have the one CD.
Just the one?
I have 2 books, Dancing Shadows, Mustangs and Dreams, and my second book. And the first book is a book that I teamed up with a professional photographer, Mike Lukey, and it's a kind of a coffee table book where his pictures and my poetry. The second book is called Cowboy Dreaming, Sunrise to Sunset, And that's a compilation of about 70 of my poems that we just put in there.
Okay. So, what's next?
What's next? Well, the next on the agenda is I've got a couple of projects going on. Another poetry CD that I'm working on, and also, but the next basic project that will be completed is a music CD of the songs that I've written, and that hopefully will be coming out before next spring. That's my next project.
That'd be very cool. Okay, this is a question suggested. What do you think is the most important aspect of of cowboy poetry and music?
By far and away the best aspect of performing here is the family. And it's not as cutthroat, if I can say that, as the other genres. And since I perform in another genre, I can tell you that from experiences. You know, when you do this, when you perform as a cowboy poet and musician, you know, wherever you go, whatever show you do, you got a problem, somebody's going to help you. I mean, it's just that kind of deal. And anybody that gets involved, they know that there's people that are going to step up. I mean, I was in a show in California, and I was going through my show, and there was a number of other musicians, and I broke a string. And before I could look around, one of the other musicians walked out on stage, took my guitar, and gave me his guitar, just like he was my groupie that came along. But everybody knew that he was a musician that was just on just before me to perform before me. But that's how it is, you know. They don't, you know, you know, there's nobody there that's going to say, well, I'm not going to help him. That's not how it
I think we
works.
saw a little bit of that yesterday when Colt broke his string. That was
Yeah. Colt's a special person. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to talk with him earlier. He is something special.
Let me tell you a story about Colt, just so that you can put this in. I met Colt when he was 15 years old in St. Anthony. And I asked him, I said, Colt, I said, how many instruments can you play? You know, how many different instruments can you play? He's 15. And he thought for a minute, and then he looked at me and he said, 16. And I had no doubt that he could play all the woodwinds. He could play, Colt can play the fiddle, but also he can play Chopin on the violin. I mean, he's just a very talented young man. But anyway.
So which brings me to my next question. What do you see for the future of CPI?
Well, as you know, the biggest problem that we have in CPI is that young people are not coming into the organization, and we have to encourage, and I don't know how you do this, we have to encourage young people to come into the organization, to get involved and to perform. CPI used to be the largest organization in the nation of cowboy poets and musicians. But our ranks have been depleted through old age, basically, without any recruitment from the younger generation. And, you know, that's the biggest challenge that we have in order to keep, you know, as I stated earlier, that, you know, we lost another great poet in Charlie Camden. And, you know, that's how it it's going to continue to go. So that's our greatest challenge at CPI.
So we need more Colts and
More
Jennifers.
Right.
And
You bet.
Kylies
And we have to get
and-
those in. And I don't. And you know, it's pretty interesting that when you expose them to what we do, it's pretty interesting because they say, "Wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't know this occurred." But then there's no follow-up. Maybe it's my fault, whoever's, but there's no follow-up to say, "Well, why don't you come on over here and do this?" And you know, we have open sessions when we have these gatherings, and I try to get everybody and anybody that wants to get on stage. If I'm running the show, I'm going to get you on stage if you want to be there. And you know, maybe you won't be a musician, but you can write poetry because anybody can. And so I challenge you to be prepared for next year and perform on that stage as a cowboy poet.
Oh, you. Every damn time you can, aren't you?
That's me, Lewis.
All right. Pretty much. I mean, I think that's about all we got. If you've got anything you'd like to throw out there for all your buddies out here, or for people.
The one thing that I'd like to say is that it's, you know, it doesn't make any difference how old you are. If you have dreams, daydreams, any kind of dreams of things that you might want to do, and if you follow where they lead, magic things can happen. And when I go to talk to high school kids, and that's my message. I don't care what you want to be. If you want to be president of the United States, then by golly, you follow that dream. Because somewhere along the way, something else will grab you, and you'll go this way or you'll go that way. But magic things can happen if you follow your dreams. And it doesn't make any difference whether you're 16 or 65. And when you stop dreaming, then you're not going to be worth anything to anyone. And like I tell people, you know, we get older, but you don't have to get old. Because once you get old, the book is closed.
All right.
So that's your philosophy lesson for today.
Yeah.